Thank you, the Honourable Speaker, the Honourable Prime Minister, the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Honourable Ministers, fellow Members of Parliament, my fellow Fijians, Nisambuluvinak, and a very good evening to you all. Honourable Speaker, I rise to support the 2026-2027 national budget, the fourth and the final budget of the coalition government. And as Minister for Defence and Veterans Affairs, I do so conscious that the first duty of the state is to protect its people. Yet defence cannot be reduced to uniforms, vessels, bases, weapons, or expenditure. These are instruments of defence, but they are not its purpose. The purpose of defence is to preserve a sovereign nation in which our people can live safely, freely, and with dignity under institutions that are lawful, democratic, and worthy of public trust. We defend our territory because it is the home of our people, and we defend our constitutional order because public power must remain answerable to the citizens. The most important achievements of this government in defence and national security are therefore not found only in equipment acquired, facilities constructed, or agreements concluded. They are found in the work we have begun to return defence to its proper place with a constitutional democracy. During this term, we have affirmed that the disciplined forces exist to serve the people, that military authority must remain subject to lawful civilian control, and the national security cannot be separated from democracy, accountability, human rights, and the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, sir, our history has shown what happens when institutions entrusted with defending the nation move beyond the lawful responsibilities. Military intervention in politics weaken democratic institutions, damage economic confidence, divide communities, and diminish trust in the disciplined forces. This government chose not to conceal that history or soften its lessons. We chose to confront it because no institution becomes stronger by refusing to examine the moments when it failed the country. The honor of military service is not found in governing the people. It is found in serving them with discipline, courage, and restraint. And the professional military does not decide who should govern. It protects the constitutional system through which the people make decisions. Obedience to the law does not weaken a soldier. It gives legitimacy to the authority placed in the soldier's hands and preserves the honor of the institution in which the soldier serves. The rule of law is one of the foundations of national security. Without law, force becomes arbitrary. Without accountability, authority becomes privilege. Without civilian oversight, institutions created to protect the nation may begin to believe that they stand above it. Accountability is not hostility towards the disciplined forces. It protects their integrity and preserves the trust upon which legitimate authority depends. The strongest security institution is not the one most feared by the population. It is the one most trusted by the people. One of the major achievements of the government was the completion of the National Security and Defence Review. The review examined Fiji's security environment honestly. It identified weaknesses in coordination, gaps in capability, and declining confidence in public institutions. It also confronted the threats posed by illicit narcotics, transnational crimes, cyber insecurity, climate change, economic vulnerability, and social division. From that work, we developed and adopted the National Security Strategy 2025-2029. Fiji now has a comprehensive framework that explains what national security means, what threats we face and what reforms must follow. The strategy places the safety and well-being of the citizens at the center of security policy. It recognizes that national security is not the private domain of the military, nor the police or the intelligence community. It includes the defense of sovereignty, but also the resilience of our economy, the integrity of democracy, the protection of our environment, social cohesion, and confidence in public institutions. This marks an important change in the way Fiji thinks about security. For too long, security was sometimes treated as the protection of the state from criticism or political disagreement. Our approach has been that the state becomes stronger when citizens are free to participate, when institutions are accountable, and when political change can occur without violence. Democracy is not an obstacle to national security. It is one of its deepest foundations. Silence may be produced through fear, but silence is not stability. Lasting stability is created when people accept the legitimacy of institutions because those institutions act lawfully and fairly. Honourable Speaker, the coalition government has itself demonstrated these principles. When this government was formed, many predicted that a coalition of different parties could not provide stable leadership. Yet this government has endured because consultation, compromise, and democratic maturity can produce stability without coercion. Political differences have been managed within cabinet, parliament, and the institutions of democracy rather than outside them. This fourth budget is evidence that democratic government, even when difficult and imperfect, can endure, Honourable Speaker. Another achievement has been the strengthening of civilian leadership and coordination within the national security system. The threats confronting Fiji do not fit neatly within the boundaries of individual agencies. Drugs move through our waters, ports, airports, financial systems, and communities. Cyber attacks may affect government, businesses, and essential services at the same time. Climate disasters demand cooperation between civilian authorities, the military, communities, and international partners. We have therefore worked to strengthen the National Security Council system, the Senior Officials Committee on National Security, and the civilian structures that provide advice, coordination, and oversight. Honourable Speaker, national security decisions must be based upon evidence, professional assessment, and the lawful direction of the elected government. At the same time, coordination must not erase institutional boundaries. The Fiji Police Force remains the primary law enforcement institution. The RFMF may provide specialist support when lawfully authorized and genuinely necessary. But it must not become a substitute for civilian policy. The distinction between police and military responsibilities is a safeguard for democracy, for the public, and for the disciplined forces themselves. We have also begun a serious program of security sector reform. This includes reviewing the laws and policies governing the RFMF, advancing the maritime security strategy, developing Fiji's first national peacekeeping strategy, strengthening our search and rescue framework, preparing a defense of cybersecurity, preparing a defense cybersecurity strategy, and improving the ministry's capacity for policy oversight. Intelligence assessment, international engagement, and civilian oversight. These reforms may attract less public attention than a new vessel or facility, but lasting security depends upon sound laws, clear mandates, professional education, and accountable institutions, Honourable Speaker. The RFMF has undertaken internal reforms to improve organizations, logistics, and accountability. The establishment of the Joint Logistics Command and the implementation of the automated logistics management system are intended to improve inventory control, efficiency, and readiness. A military institution is not made effective by appearance alone, Honorable Speaker. Its true strength is found in the system that ensures personnel are trained, supplied, supported, and ready when the nation requires them. Modernization must therefore be measured not only by what is purchased, but by whether the institution becomes more disciplined, sustainable, and capable of fulfilling its lawful responsibilities. We have also strengthened Fiji's response to transnational organized crime and illicit narcotics. The drug crisis is not merely a policing issue. It affects families, schools, workplaces, health services, economic productivity, and the integrity of public institutions. Our response must bring together the local capabilities of the police, the RFMF, customs, immigration, fisheries, and other authorities, while preserving the police as the primary law enforcement institution. We have strengthened the Maritime Essential Services Center, improved interagency coordination, and developed a clearer understanding of activity within Fiji's maritime domain. Fiji's exclusive economic zone covers approximately 1.3 million square kilometers, Honorable Speaker. Across that vast area, the Navy supports surveillance, search and rescue, hydrographic services, and the safety of mariners. The ocean connects our islands, carries our trade, and sustains community, but it is also the place through which drugs, illegal fishing, human trafficking, and other forms of transnational crime may reach us. For a small island state with limited assets, reliable intelligence, information sharing, and coordination are as important as the number of vessels that we possess. Mr. Speaker, sir, Fiji's contribution to international peacekeeping remains one of the proudest expressions of our national service. For more than 4 decades, Fijian personnel have served in some of the world's most difficult environments. They have protected civilians, supported humanitarian operations, and stood between communities divided by violence. Their service has earned Fiji respect far beyond might be expected of a nation of our size. Peacekeeping has also taught us something profound about peace itself. Force may not stop immediate violence, but force alone cannot create a peaceful society. This depends upon legitimacy, justice, dialogue, and institutions that communities can trust. The values our peacekeepers defend abroad must also guide our institutions at home. We cannot speak proudly of defending peace overseas while neglecting democracy within Fiji, nor insist upon the rule of law abroad while treating it as optional here. The development of Fiji's first national peacekeeping strategy is therefore not only about future deployments, it is about ensuring that our international service remains professional, principled, and aligned with the welfare of the personnel and the families who carry the burden of that service. We have also strengthened our international defense relationships while maintaining an independent view of Fiji's national interests. We have strengthened our international defense relationships while maintaining an independent view of Fiji's national interest. In a region increasingly affected by strategic competition, Fiji must remain open to constructive partnerships without allowing itself to become an instrument of division between larger powers. Our interest is best deserved by a Pacific in which dialogue remains open, sovereignty is respected, and cooperation contributes to a genuine ocean of peace. Another important achievement has been, Honourable Speaker, the advancement of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda. We have placed the meaningful participation of women within Fiji's national security framework and undertaken detailed assessments of the barriers women face within the RSMF and the Fiji Police Force. This work recognizes that the experience of conflict, crime, disaster, and insecurity are not the same for everyone, and that policies developed without the participation of women will inevitably overlook important dimensions of community safety and institutional effectiveness. Women, peace and security is not an exercise in symbolism, for it is simply about increasing numbers. Nor is it simply about increasing numbers. It is about ensuring that women participate meaningfully in recruitment, training, deployment, operational planning, peacekeeping, and the senior decision-making. It is also about building institutions in which women can serve safely, progress on merit, and contribute fully to the defense of the nation. A security institution cannot fully understand the population it protects while excluding the experience, judgment, and leadership of half of their population. The assessments undertaken through the Measuring Opportunities for Women Peace Operations program have given us an evidence-based foundation for reform. The next stage is implementation. We must address institutional barriers, improve facilities and policies, strengthen professional development, and ensure that women are not merely present in our security institutions, but are able to influence their direction. A more inclusive security sector is not only fairer, it is more capable, more representative, and better able to earn the trust of the communities that it serves. Honorable Speaker, our achievement must also be judged by how we treat those whose active service has ended. Through the Veterans Affairs Division, the Ministry has continued oversight of the Fiji Servicemen Aftercare Fund, the welfare of former servicemen, honors and awards, the National War Memorial, and Fiji's overseas war graves. We have also begun reviewing the arrangements governing veteran support. A nation's debt to a veteran cannot be discharged through a medal, a ceremony, or a speech. Some return from service with visible injuries. Others carry burdens that are less easily seen. The families also bear the cost of absence, uncertainty, and sacrifice. The value of service does not end when the uniform is removed. This state must remain present when those who served required assistance, dignity, and care. Mr. Speaker, sir, the allocation in this budget will allow the Ministry and the RFMF to continue this work, but I do not intend to reduce this address to a recital of figures. Budgets provide the means by which institutions operate, but money does not provide their purpose. Purpose comes from the principles by which institutions are led and the standards by which they are held accountable. As this is the fourth and final budget of the coalition government, we should be honest about what has been achieved and what remains unfinished. We completed the National Security and Defense Review. We adopted the National Security Strategy. We strengthened civilian national security, leadership, and interagency coordination. We began important legal and policy reforms. We advanced maritime security, peacekeeping, international defense engagements, women, peace and security, and the welfare of veterans. We improved the RFMF's internal logistics and supported a more coordinated response to narcotics and transnational crime. Most importantly, we placed democracy, accountability, human rights, and the rule of law at the center of national security policy. Institutional reform cannot be completed in a single term of parliament, Honorable Speaker. Trust damaged over many years cannot be restored through one strategy, one minister or one government. Trust is restored through conduct. It is restored each time an institution remains within the law when it might have exceeded it, when wrongdoing is investigated rather than concealed, and when leaders accept that public authority carries an obligation to answer for its use. Perhaps the most important achievement of this government has been to change the question Fiji asks about national security. The question can no longer be simply how much power the government possesses. The better question to ask is why that power is exercised, under whose authority it is exercised, and to whom those who exercise it are accountable. Mr. Speaker, sir, the lasting defense of Fiji will not be secured by the strength of one leader, one government, or one military commander. It will be secured by institutions that remain lawful when leaders change, by disciplined forces that understand both their powers and their limits, and by citizens who trust that the state exists to protect them rather than dominate them. Our duty is to defend Fiji not only as a territory, but as a democracy. We must protect our borders, our waters, our communities, and our people from crime, disaster, and instruments of security, and external threats. We must protect the constitutional principles that ensure the instruments of security never again become instruments of insecurity. That is the deeper meaning of defense, Honourable Speaker, and it is the work of this government has just begun, and is the work that Fiji must continue. Honourable Speaker, for our serving men and women, for our peacekeepers, for the women helping reshape our security institutions, for our veterans and their families, and for every Fijian whose freedom and security depend upon strong, lawful, and accountable institutions, I support the 2026-27 national budget. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I commend this budget to Parliament. Thank you.